first taste of power, why obsession begins with mystery. If you've ever wanted someone to think about you long after you've left the room, if you've ever wondered how to make your presence haunt their mind like a riddle that refuses to be solved, then listen carefully, because what you're about to hear is not just strategy. It's seduction, the Machiavellian kind. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Philosophical Pulse, because every week we explore the cold truths and psychological weapons that philosophers like Machiavelli, Nietzsche, and Schopenhauer tried to hide in plain sight. And if you leave now, you'll miss the final truth that ties it all together. One that most people live their entire lives never realizing. Now, let's begin. Power doesn't start with control. It starts with absence. To make people obsess over you, you must first make them aware of the gap between what they know and what they don't. Machiavelli understood this. He once said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. They're drawn not to your deeds, but to your appearance, your performance, your illusion. To become unforgettable, you must first become unreadable." Think of the people who linger in your mind. Was it because they were overly available, or because they revealed just enough to spark a fire and then vanished into shadow? The mind craves certainty, but it obsesses over uncertainty. Mystery is the first ingredient. Don't tell people everything. Let them wonder about your past. Let your silence speak more than your words. Be present, but not predictable. Smile, but with questions behind your eyes. Be kind, but never easy to understand. The more they try to decode you, the deeper you burrow into their psychology. And here's what's brutal about it. Obsession doesn't grow from love. It grows from lack, from confusion, from emotional contradiction. Machiavelli didn't rely on love, because love can fade. He relied on need, on dependence, on fear. So ask yourself, do they know what you're thinking? If the answer is yes, you've already lost your advantage. Stay unpredictable. Change your rhythm. Give them attention, then withdraw it. Don't explain. Just vanish, and let your silence ache in their thoughts. As we're just getting started, let me ask you, who are you trying to make obsess over you and why? Drop it in the comments. Your story might reflect thousands of others who feel the same, and maybe you'll learn something about yourself. And remember to subscribe to Philosophical Pulse. If these ideas are already making you see things differently, wait till you hear what's next. Because now that you've created a mystery, the next step is far more dangerous. Coming up next, we'll explore how to make someone emotionally depend on you, using Machiavelli's hidden law of emotional imbalance, a method that quietly destroys the line between fascination and addiction. But for now, breathe, think, and remember, you do not become unforgettable by being liked. You become unforgettable by being impossible to figure out. Emotional imbalance, how to make them crave your presence. Why do some people stay in your head, even when they've done nothing extraordinary? Why does their silence echo louder than other people's presence? Because obsession doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in emotional confusion. And Machiavelli understood this with terrifying clarity. If you haven't already, subscribe to Philosophical Pulse, because what we're about to discuss in this part is where the real psychological power begins. And by the end of this journey, if you miss even a single section, you'll miss the final truth, one that holds the entire system together. So watch till the very end. Now, let's sharpen the blade. People obsess over what makes them feel unsure, not what makes them feel safe. When your presence gives them joy, but your absence gives them anxiety, you create a cycle, a loop that never truly closes. They start to associate your attention with relief, and your silence with pain. And the human mind, no matter how rational, will always chase the one who makes them feel the most, not the one who treats them the best. Machiavelli would call this controlled chaos. Here's the method. First, be incredibly attentive, more than anyone else. Mirror them. Finish their thoughts. Make them feel like you see them in a way no one else ever has. And then break the rhythm. Suddenly go silent. Withdraw. Change your tone. Leave messages unanswered. Let them doubt what just happened. Let them reanalyze every word they said to you. You are training their brain to seek you for emotional closure. You are building a loop they can't break. And it's not cruel. It's controlled. Because as Machiavelli said, it is much safer to be feared than loved, if one of the two must be lacking. Why? Because fear lingers. Love fades. You see, obsession isn't about affection. It's about uncertainty. When someone doesn't know where they stand with you, they will chase clarity. And the more they chase, the more power you hold. It's not about being toxic. It's about being unpredictable with purpose. You give just enough to keep them hoping, then take just enough to keep them wondering. This emotional imbalance is the beating heart of obsession. And Machiavelli would smile at how effective it still is. Pause with me here. We're about a quarter of the way through, and I want to hear from you. Have you ever been caught in someone's emotional loop? Have you been the one who chased someone simply because they were inconsistent? Share it in the comments. You're not alone, and your story might reveal how easily this technique works, even when unintentional. And don't forget, subscribe to Philosophical Pulse, because this next part is where we begin controlling perception, not just emotion. Coming up next, you'll learn how to create a public image so powerful that people will obsess not just over who you are, but over what you represent to them. A psychological mirror that reflects their deepest desires and fears. But for now, let your silence speak. Let your presence feel like oxygen, and your absence like a suffocating question. That is how obsession begins. The mirror effect, becoming who they want to see. Why do we fall for people who barely reveal who they truly are? Why do we chase the ones who give us fragments instead of full truths? Because we don't fall for them. We fall for the version of ourselves that we see reflected in them. And no one understood this brutal truth better than Machiavelli. If you're still with us, you're already ahead of most. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Philosophical Pulse. Because what's coming next is where obsession stops being an accident and becomes a weapon. And remember, skip this and miss the final insight that makes it all click. So stay till the end. Let's continue. The most powerful people in history rarely showed you their true selves. Instead, they became the mirror. A mirror that reflected what others wanted to see, what they hoped to believe, what they needed to feel. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "A wise ruler must know how to act the beast as well as the man." What he meant was play the part. Don't be truthful. Be useful to the mind of your observer. So how does this tie to obsession? People become addicted to those who reflect their own dreams back at them. You make them feel seen, but in a curated way. You show them a filtered image of themselves, filled with potential, glory, connection. They don't obsess over you. They obsess over who they think they are when they're with you. This is the mirror effect. And it's not manipulation, it's performance art. A dangerous, seductive art. Here's how you apply it. Step into their value system. Mirror their intensity. Echo their language. Validate their inner narrative. If they see themselves as deep, be profound. If they see themselves as powerful, treat them like royalty. If they see themselves as broken, become their safe space. But don't do it forever. Pull away before they can define you. Leave just as they begin to lean in. What remains is a hollow space filled with their own reflection, and a need to fill it again with you. Obsession thrives when people don't know where they end and you begin. You blur the line. You become not a person but a symbol, a walking fantasy, an emotional drug. And when they're addicted to how you make them feel about themselves, they'll chase you far longer than reason should allow. Machiavelli knew, men are driven by two things, love and fear. But the greatest rulers used illusion. Let's check in. We're now nearly halfway through, And the real game is only just beginning. What have you learned so far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's resonating with you? Are you seeing how easily this applies to your life, or how it's been used against you? Let's start a fire down below, the philosophical kind. And if this is already blowing your mind, don't forget to hit subscribe and join our growing army of critical thinkers at Philosophical Pulse. Now brace yourself, because in the next section we go darker. Coming up next, we reveal how selective attention and jealousy can make you unforgettable. Not through kindness, but through calculated withdrawal, social triggers, and Machiavelli's favorite, envy. You're not becoming someone they like. You're becoming someone they can't replace. But for now, step out of the mirror. Let them stare into their own reflection, and watch as they come crawling back for more. Scarcity, jealousy, and the art of being irreplaceable. Why is it that people only seem to want you when they think someone else already does? Why do we crave what we can't fully possess? The answer is as ancient as desire itself. Scarcity creates value, and envy amplifies obsession. Machiavelli didn't just understand this, he weaponized it. Before we go further, if you're still watching, you're among the few who don't just want attention, you want power. So pause and subscribe to Philosophical Pulse now, because this is where the psychological grip tightens. And the final insight at the end of this video will only make sense if you absorb what's coming next. Let's get ruthless. When something becomes available to everyone, it loses its mystique, its power, its pull. But when access becomes limited, when your attention is earned rather than given, people don't just notice. They compete. They begin to imagine someone else holding your focus. And that imagined rival becomes the fuel for obsession. Here's what Machiavelli knew. Jealousy is not created by betrayal. It's created by possibility. The possibility that you might prefer someone else. The possibility that someone might understand you better, feel you deeper, connect with you more intensely. And the moment that thought enters their mind, you live there, rent-free. So how do you build this? You don't beg for attention. You make your presence a privilege, a rare coin in a sea of common currency. Speak less, disappear strategically, show selective warmth. Be kind, but never predictable. And when others begin to admire you openly, let it be known. Let them see others value you. Let them feel the creeping doubt of being just another face in the crowd. Envy turns desire into obsession. Machiavelli warned, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. So surround yourself with people who admire you. Not because you need validation, but because it's a signal. You're not alone. You're desired. And that perceived value makes others fear your absence more than they trust your presence. That's power. But here's the paradox. The more accessible you are, the less magnetic you become. You must create micro-abandonments, moments where they question your attention, your interest, your loyalty, not in destructive ways, but in calculated absences. Return, but never explain. Show up, but only on your terms. This triggers a fear far greater than anger, the fear of being forgettable. And once they believe you could walk away at any moment, they'll fight to keep you closer. That's the art of obsession. Let's breathe here. We are now 3/4 through this brutal guide. And I want to know, have you ever used scarcity, even unknowingly, to pull someone closer? Or maybe someone used it on you? Drop your experience in the comments and don't hold back. There's wisdom in your story, and it might unlock something for someone else watching. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button for Philosophical Pulse. Because what's coming next is where everything converges. Coming up next, you'll discover how to turn all the pieces, mystery, emotion, reflection, and scarcity, into a permanent psychological signature. One that makes people obsess not just in your presence, but long after you're gone. The final piece is not about tactics. It's about identity. Stay with me. We're almost there. The final signature becoming an idea they can't escape. What if I told you the most powerful form of obsession isn't about attraction, mystery, or scarcity, but transformation? The final step in Machiavelli's brutal guide doesn't make people want you. It makes them need you to understand themselves. If you've made it this far, you're not just curious. You're dangerous. You're building something few ever master. And before we finish, remember to subscribe to Philosophical Pulse, because this is where we bring it all together. And if you skip now, you'll miss the final psychological twist that explains everything. Let's begin. The most unforgettable people in your life. They are not the most beautiful, not the most talented, not the most available. They're the ones who left a mark, an emotional fingerprint, a memory that didn't fade, because it changed you. You don't obsess over them for who they were. You obsess because they revealed a version of yourself you didn't know existed. That is the final form of power. Machiavelli hinted at this in his writings. Men are driven by what they believe, not by what is. So you don't just become a person in their mind. You become an idea, a force, a revelation. You must position yourself as the one who sees them, understands what no one else does, connects dots in their life they never saw on their own. And then, just when they begin to rely on you for that clarity, withdraw. Not to punish them, but to let the echo of your influence settle in their mind. They'll return, not for you, but for the version of themselves they became when they were with you. And that's obsession in its purest form. Because here's the dark truth. People don't obsess over you. They obsess over who they were when you were watching, when you were listening, when you made them feel visible, special, chosen. You were a mirror, a mystery, a reward, a storm, and finally, a ghost, an unshakable idea that lives inside them. And Machiavelli would say, that is how rulers are born, not on thrones, but in the minds of others. Let's reflect. You've made it to the end of the path, but the final message is the most important. You don't need to chase. You don't need to explain. You don't need to please. You only need to be deliberate, crafted, withheld, unapologetically intentional. If you've watched till now, you've proven something to yourself. You're not afraid to go deep, to understand the uncomfortable truths behind human nature, and to use them not just to manipulate, but to protect yourself from being manipulated. So tell me, what part of this guide hit you the hardest? What have you used before? And what will you use now? Drop it in the comments. Let this become a place where we expose illusions, not fall for them. Subscribe to Philosophical Pulse if you haven't already, because videos like this aren't just content. They're weapons, psychological armor for the world we actually live in. And now, walk away slowly. Let silence follow you like a shadow. Don't explain. Don't chase. Don't correct their impression. Let them obsess. Because you are now unforgettable.